Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm John, the creative blue collar guy, and got just another short little solo cast for you here tonight that I want to start calling music that you probably don't know about, but you should. Something to that effect. I don't know. Today we're going to be talking about this artist, Colter Wall. I thought it was time to maybe talk about something good rather than videos that probably get flagged or shadow banned like my last one did. If you haven't seen it yet, go back, check out my interview with Andrew. We started out trying to avoid certain terminology to keep that video from getting flagged, but the conversation got going and we kind of gave up. So pretty sure that one's been flagged, shadow banned, whatever, but it's still there. Just search it out, look for it, throw a like, throw a comment, tell me what you think in the comments there. But today, we're going to talk about something good, and that is music. Something that I think always brings people together, whether you speak the same language as the artist or whether whatever, it's just music. Music's a good thing. So, music or bands or artists that you probably don't know about that you should know about. Today, we're going to be talking about Colter Wall. I actually did not really grow up listening to country music. My parents were never really big country music fans. I might have heard maybe some Johnny Cash a little bit growing up. But for the most part, I didn't grow up with it like most people from my high school and other upbringing probably heard. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely grown to appreciate more kind of the old school sounds. You know, Willie Nelson, obviously Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, and all that kind of stuff. This guy here, Colter Wall, he is probably, I think, still only about in his mid 20s. He's from Canada, but the first time I heard his music, um, I mean, right away I thought, like, oh, this sounds like an 80-year-old lifelong smoker. And that sounds bad. Like, I'm not trying to talk bad about the guy. Obviously, I've become a fan. I love his music, but to me, when I first heard his music, he sounds like just an older guy that's kind of been around. And when I first looked him up, at least at the time, I thought, oh, he's 24, 25 years old, and I was really blown away by that. So um, he is a real life, authentic Canadian rancher, country singer. This, I just kind of have a Spotify profile pulled up right now, but if I pull up, I have an article here. Oops. There we go. Colter Wall passed on Joe Rogan because he was working a ranch. So before we even begin to get into his music or anything, I just really wanted to highlight this. I had already heard of him. I had already been listening to his music for at least a little while, maybe a couple months by the time I read this. But I just thought, I mean, the balls on this guy, and again, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm like much respect that here one of the biggest podcasters of our time in our country, maybe even in the world. I don't know. I'm not going to try to make up any numbers about that. First of all, is a fan who's a big fan of Colter Wall and wanted to have him on the show. And much to his credit, Mr. Wall came back and said, I'm sorry, that's going to interfere with my ranching schedule. And that only caused Joe Rogan to actually respect this guy all that much more. If you look down in here, I think the direct quote, let's see. What saving country music is just now catching up with is the fact that Joe Rogan actually invited Colter Wall to be on the show. And get this, Colter Wall turned him down because he was too busy working on a ranch at the time. This is the quote from Joe himself. You want to hear how authentic this cat is? We tried to get him on the show. We contacted his agent. This is what the agent said. He works as a ranch hand in Texas over the summer, and when he's done, we'll get a hold of you, Joe Rogan says. The revelation came in a November 2020 interview. It was a little bit longer than I thought. I thought it was more recent than over a year ago. Between Joe Rogan and comedian Tom Green. Tom wore a Stetson into the Joe Rogan studio, and it inspired Joe to start reciting the words to Colter Wall's song 13 Silver Dollars, the first song from Colter Wall's 2017 self-titled album. So anyway, so there you have that. Just as authentic as can be. Yeah, he's a country singer. He's out there. He wants to record music, and I would say sell music, but I don't really think there's much money to be made in music sales anymore. I think it's a lot more now of if you're not touring, if you're not playing live, you're not making money. And even then, the venue takes a big cut, so that's a whole other thing. But bottom line, as a musician who spent most of my life not making money off of music, I largely feel like there's little to no money to be made anymore in recorded music and putting out albums. Now you've got Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Music and everything, and those are all great tools. I subscribe to Spotify, I use that, but I also try to purchase I guess you could call him still kind of a hipster in that now I still purchase the hard vinyl copies of albums that I really, really love, because then I have the larger pieces of artwork. I have the vinyl. And it's just a way to still, because CDs are pretty much dead. I mean, who owns a CD player anymore? Most cars don't even have them anymore. But to have the vinyl, yes, I have the record player. You have the artwork. But to still purchase and actually give money to the artists that are putting the time and the money and the effort into recording these albums, putting together the album artwork. But I just, I think if you're not touring, you're not making money these days. So, which kind of leads me to my next point. I think this was shared in a story, an Instagram story, so I probably can't find that exactly, but I'm going to pull up another Instagram post from him, from Colter Wall here, that sort of has to do with his touring. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. So he had scheduled some tour dates. This is from quite a few months ago. So he had scheduled some tour dates for late 2021, as we are now that I'm recording this on December 27th. It's pretty much the end of the year. But earlier in the year, he had scheduled some tour dates and was planning to, hit the road as things were starting to reopen. Things were starting to kind of get back to normal. But as we've obviously seen, and especially for me being in California, things are changing every day. They're moving the goalpost every day. And most bands, most artists, most people are rolling with the punches, where all of a sudden now they're saying, okay, if we're going to play at this particular venue, or we're going to play in this particular city, we're going to put all these restrictions in place where you have to prove this and that and the other to get into the show, or you have to show us this to prove that you're okay to get in, and making people jump through all sorts of hoops to get into concerts that where we might have bought these tickets months ago, and then they'll pop up a couple of days before the show, and oh, by the way, you need to do this, this, and this to get in. Most people, unfortunately, are just going along with it and telling the fans, tough, deal with it. We want to tour, we want to work, and it is what it is. And again, especially being in California, you can't do anything in California without having to show your papers. So Colter Wall here, again, a Canadian, which, I mean, there's a whole other world of things going on over there that could be a whole other separate video. He initially came back and said, we can't keep up with the ever-changing nature of what's going on right now due to changing restrictions from this state to this venue to that venue, whatever. And he just chose to wipe out the whole tour and just kind of either initially postpone, maybe cancel the whole thing. And he just said, I'm not doing it. I'm not jumping through the hoops. I'm not making my fans jump through the hoops. So again, that post I think was in an Instagram story that I can no longer find, but in an actual post, then he came back a little bit later and said this. He avoids all of the political terminology. He avoids all of the kind of divisive nature of what's going on, but he basically just says this. Folks, a couple of things to share. You work hard for what you have. It's something we've all got in common. As the team rescheduled September, October, and November 2021 dates for fall of 2022, it just didn't sit right with us. that while you waited for rescheduled dates, your wages would be held for another year. For that reason, we canceled the shows so the refund process could begin. Those ticket refunds are available at place of purchase. We appreciate each one of you who bought a ticket. We hope that when the time comes, you will buy a ticket to the next show. There's new shit coming, videos, songs, calluses. Keep your ears open. So this is just another one of those things that made me respect him all the more. As much as I'm bummed out that me living in California, it's probably going to be a good long while before he ever tours or comes to my particular town for a concert, given his obvious feelings and outlook on what's going on. Again, doesn't necessarily say one thing or doesn't say anything one way or another about how he feels about certain restrictions. Again, I'm trying to avoid those buzzwords so that the same thing doesn't happen to this video that happened to the last one. But I think it was more just the fact that it's the uncertain nature that he didn't want to deal with. So you can read between the lines and you can make assumptions. I'm not going to make a lot of assumptions other than the fact that I appreciate that he's only going to perform shows when it's just like the good old days of you buy a ticket, you show up, you show the ticket, you get into the venue. And the only thing you have to show to get into the venue is your ticket and maybe an ID if it's 21 and up. That's it. So, all of that being said, I just really wanted to take a brief episode here to highlight this particular artist who I, just as a musician, as a fellow artist, gained a lot of respect for, and just that he has a very old school sound for being such a young man, that he's so authentic in his ranching schedule, his summer job, whatever you want to call it, and the fact that he refuses to make his fans jump through all sorts of crazy hoops to see him live. So at whatever point I am able to see this artist live, I will pay any dollar amount. I will drive any distance. I will go and I will support this man for all of those reasons that I've just mentioned, because it's very few and far between now, I think, in that I still disagree with it and I still think they're wrong, but I also think that it's their right to do it. And that I think a lot of musicians, both on a small local level all the way up on a high-end touring level. My last video, I talked a lot about the Foo Fighters and sort of their fall from grace and selling out and all of that. I feel like from a musician standpoint, there's all this pressure. They've been out of work for so long. And like I mentioned earlier, I think there's no money to be made in recorded music anymore. So they're looking at this pressure of, if we're not touring, we're not making money. And it's just become this social pressure of they're doing what they feel they have to do to basically to be able to go back to work. A lot of people are being faced with that situation, but also a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck and are not internationally famous touring artists that are able to, and I'm not saying that every musician is rich and famous, but let's say like someone on the Foo Fighters level, they could probably take a year or two off and still be okay. This guy, Colter Wall, maybe not so much, and that's why he's working as a rancher. But I still just feel like overall, in what I've just witnessed, both on a local level, on an international level, with musicians, there's just this big pressure of, well, we have to do this to be able to get back to work. I know a lot of people in the machining industry that are facing that, a lot of people in the healthcare industry that are facing that. And I still disagree with it and I still think it's wrong. But at the end of the day, people are doing what they feel they need to do to be able to get back to work. So I appreciate and I respect this guy's decision to do what he did with his tour, to put it off, keep ranching. And for all I know, he could have taken the jab. He could be masking up anytime he goes outside. I don't know. He doesn't talk to that. He doesn't say anything about that. But he's not enforcing it. He's not making anyone else do it. He's not making anyone else prove it to see his concerts. So I thought that was really cool. I appreciate the fact that his music is very authentic, very old school, has a very cowboy vibe to it. It's like just what you'd imagine when you're watching the old Western movies, and just a guy sitting by the campfire playing his guitar, singing about working on the prairie or whatever. It's if you have not heard of this guy, just purely on a musical level, forget about all the stuff I was just talking about current events and things that have been going on. Just go give him a listen, just based on his musical talent alone, because this guy's very genuine. He's very authentic. He's not trying to pull any sort of glitz and glamour studio magic or anything. It just really sounds like he's set up a microphone, he brings his guitar and just plays, and it's great. So again, go check out Colter Wall. This Canadian rancher who, I guess, according to the one article, I guess he works in a ranch in Texas, but he's out of Saskatchewan normally. Mid-20s and just working, making music, doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. So without further ado, I think that'll just about do it for today's short episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. Go check this guy out, sound off, like this video, share it out there. I definitely want to make this more of a series of kind of highlighting some stuff that I listen to that I think may or may not get a whole lot of attention. It's kind of weird in this day and age now of not really having a lot of radio, or at least I don't listen to the radio anymore because I got tired of their politics and the DJs in between songs, and I got tired of hearing the same songs over and over again every day without me being able to choose what I want to hear. So as a musician, there's a lot of different stuff out there that I listen to, but I also feel like I'm kind of disconnected from what's popular, what's well known, what people listen to. I don't know. So that's one of my goals with this channel, is to bring some good into the world, to highlight some artists that I think are really great that are maybe not as well known or aren't really getting a lot of attention. So for this week's episode of music that you probably haven't heard of that you should, go and check out Colter Wall. And after you do, come back and let me know what you think of him in the comments. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening.